Howard Dean, good to see you, sir.
Nice to be back.
What happened?
We lost. This is really a worldwide phenomenon, not just an American phenomenon. It's scary to you as it is to us because you're right next door. But you know, Brexit was exactly the same group. Marine Le Pen, who's a far-right ideologue running for president, is leading the pack in France. You got basically an undemocratic government in both Poland and Hungary. So this is I think this is a reaction to globalization. You know, the people who are left behind in globalization, older, not quite so skilled, not facile with the internet, no college degree, many of them. Those folks have gotten left behind, and they resent it.
Those used to be Democrats. Those used to be union members. Did your party lose touch with Middle America?
No. Our party, first of all, we got more votes than Trump did. It's just we have a weird system that makes
electoral college. That's right.
Yeah, right. So what happened? I think really both parties lost touch with Middle America. Both parties lost touch with the people that were falling behind because of globalization. But globalization is a good thing. It's lifted over 1 billion people out of poverty around the world. But there are winners and losers. And the manufacturing loss, which is not due to trade treaties, I might add, that's a shibboleth which politicians of both parties seized upon. It's just not true. Trade treaties bring many more jobs than you lose them, but they have lost jobs in places like Iowa and Ohio where there's manufacturing.
Michigan.
But the big job, you know, we have the same percentage of our manufacturing, of our GDP as manufacturing today as it was 30 years ago. Much fewer people employed in manufacturing. Why is that? Robotics.
Right.
And the internet.
Well, that's true, but you got to deal with the fact.
You got to deal with it.
You got to deal with the fact that these workers don't have jobs anymore, and they're genuine workers. You mentioned NAFTA. Yep. Donald Trump has promised to rip up NAFTA or renegotiate NAFTA. Justin Trudeau, our Prime Minister, has also offered to open negotiations. Senator Santorum, who was on our program earlier, said Justin Trudeau made a major error doing that Trump was only interested in Mexico, not Canada. What's your take?
I think, I don't know that he made a major error at all. I think, you know, if you reopen NAFTA and renegotiate it, you'll get something too. But I think Santorum's right. He mostly cares about Mexico, and I think that's a good thing. The standards of living are similar. Unions are strong, maybe even stronger in Canada than they are in the United States, in the auto industry and things like that. So there's not really a big reason to rip up NAFTA as far as Canada is concerned. I think it's less likely that that's going to happen. Mexico, I think there will be a problem.
Yeah, okay, but when Justin Trudeau, our Prime Minister, says he's ready to renegotiate, and Trump says he wants to renegotiate, who's got the advantage there?
You know, if we undo NAFTA in the United States, we will lose millions and millions of jobs. So, you know, I don't think these politicians really understood what they were saying.
Do Americans get what you're saying? Like, who made that case?
No, they don't.
Who made the case you're making?
Nobody makes the case because they're afraid to in the middle of an election. But the truth is, trade is good for America. Now, what do we need to do about manufacturing jobs? There's a lot of things we need to do about manufacturing jobs. Getting rid of trade treaties is not one of them.
Price on carbon. We're going to have a national price on carbon by 2018 here in Canada.
That's great. Canada always leads the way.
Donald Trump says no, he's going to lower corporate taxes, not going to have a price on carbon, and some believe that will mean Canada will be less competitive. Jobs go south. What's your view?
You know, if we lower the corporate tax rate, I'm in favor of that if it's paid for. What the Republicans often do is make tax cuts and don't pay for them and then run huge deficits and then, of course, try to blame them on Social Security, which is what they do. They take from old people and give to their billionaire friends. We're not interested in that kind of a policy. What I am interested in is a corporate tax rate that works, paid for by getting rid of the loopholes in the corporate tax, such as the oil depletion allowance. Now, whether you can ever get that through Congress or not because of all the payola that goes on there, I don't know. But that's the kind of stuff that would be good for America. And I don't think that, I mean, what's Canada's corporate tax rate? It's certainly not as high as ours.
No, it's lower now, but Trump wants to lower it. People are trying to understand who Donald Trump is. Now he's got the presidency, he's got the Senate, and he's got the House. What do you expect to happen in the first 100, 200 days? What will the Trump agenda be now that essentially the Democrats cannot do much to stop it?
Well, we can, actually. We have a filibuster in the Senate. So the Republicans would have to get rid of the filibuster, which then, of course, we could use when we get back in the majority, whenever that may be. But that's all we got. so we can be obstructionist. We could make a deal with Trump. I mean, Trump has some things that I like. I like his infrastructure program, although the trouble is you never know with Trump because he has 3 positions on every issue in one day. But if he goes through with his infrastructure report that I saw, he's going to use public-private partnerships to rebuild infrastructure. That makes a lot of sense. The states don't have the money to do it, and the feds would have to borrow another $5 trillion to do it, which makes no sense whatsoever. So, you know, I'm not willing to say that everything Trump wants to do is crazy. I want to see what he really says what he wants to do. You know, and he's a complicated guy. He appoints a reasonable person who's much more conservative than I am, but for somebody you can talk to his chief of staff, and then his senior advisor is a Nazi. I mean, what, you know.
Okay, hang on, slow down. Well, this is interesting. You're talking about Reince Priebus, who is the chairman of the Republican National Party. Right? He's now his chief of staff.
Right.
Steve Bannon, who ran something called Breitbart News.
Right, which is a far-right anti-Semitic publication.
You called him a Nazi?
Well, he's anti-Semitic, he's anti-black, and he's anti-women.
He's openly said, I'm part of the quote-unquote alt-right. He is Donald Trump's chief strategist. What does that tell you?
That makes me very nervous. I mean, it calls into question Donald Trump's judgment, and that's the problem. So we don't know what to expect from Donald Trump.
You know, when people say, people like to throw around this word Nazi, it's a pretty big word.
It's a big word, and I don't usually use it unless somebody's really anti-Semitic, really misogynist.
You really believe he's that? I mean, again,
go look at Breitbart News. You'll make up your own mind.
What, you know, some will say, look, Donald Trump's daughter married Steve Kushner, who's an Orthodox Jewish guy. How do you square the circle?
That's a very good question. I have no idea how he squares the circle. That's a very good question.
Do minorities have something to fear in Donald Trump's America?
Yes. I mean, the number of hate crimes has quadrupled since he's been president, as they did after Brexit. When you run a campaign based on hate, which is what he did, you run a terrible risk of somehow liberating people's worst instincts, and that's just what's happened. It's the same thing that Farage did in Europe.
Let's talk about security.
Mm-hmm.
He has expressed open admiration for Vladimir Putin, and he has talked about NATO in a way that many have interpreted as undermining NATO, a critical alliance. Is Donald Trump undermining the Western Alliance, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization?
He's talked as if he will. We don't know what he's going to do because what he says during the campaign can easily be changed. I hope it will be because Putin's going to test him.
How?
Who knows how, but I think it'll involve troops and it'll involve Georgia, Moldova, Ukraine, or even Latvia.
We have Canadian troops going to Latvia.
Yes, we do.
What do you make of that? Are they in a potentially more dangerous situation now?
I think anytime you have uncertainty in foreign policy, you have danger. And, you know, Trump can't damage the American economy too much, except unless he does some of the trade stuff he wants to talk about. Because this is we're a very strong country and we're very decentralized. The president doesn't have that much to do with economic policy. If you have tax policy changes, you can do, but most presidents don't do a lot on that. The most powerful person in America is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, which is independently appointed, and he doesn't get to appoint a substitute for 2 or 3 years.
Although he has talked down Janet Yellen.
He certainly has, and he's welcome to do that, but she ain't going anywhere, and that's the statute. Same as the FBI director. You don't want the president fooling around with the FBI and persecuting people, and he's got 7 more years on his term. So we don't know what he's going to do, but I think the American economy will, except for the uncertainty in the business community, will be reasonably strong. But I think the foreign policy stuff is really scary because a couple of words out of place and you give people the impression that they can go ahead and do something that you don't want them to do. That is very frightening.
Is the world more dangerous or less dangerous now that Donald Trump is
much more dangerous? Because uncertainty breeds danger, and Donald Trump is uncertainty.
Before I let you go, the world, you know, we watched this campaign. I'm sure you did. Everybody did. It was an unprecedented campaign.
It was.
Things that used to disqualify candidates just washed off.
Yep.
People look at you back and when you almost won the nomination, December 2004? January 2004, the Dean Scream, right?
Right.
Like, that's a Monday morning in this campaign. That, for you, was a politically fatal moment.
No, it actually wasn't. I had already lost the Iowa. My politically fatal moment for me was 3 weeks before the Iowa primary. We didn't do our homework and lost the nomination.
Fair enough. But you remember that.
Oh,
that went viral.
Right.
Like, and Mitt Romney, you know, binders
the
full
reason,
of what's happened that the levels of acceptability have changed in the political discourse?
I don't think it's acceptability. I think Trump probably is totally underwater in his favorability ratings. I think the problem is people were really mad and they wanted change. And at the end of the day, they went into the booth and said, I can have change and take all these risks, and I'm willing to do that. And that's what they did.
What is the Democratic Party? A lot of people thought after this election, you know, the pundits were saying, oh, the Republicans are going to be in the wilderness. There's going to be Trump. There's going to be the Tea Party, the establishment Republicans. Who are they? Now they say the Democrats are in the wilderness. You're potentially running to be the chairman of the Democratic National Party. What does the Democratic National Party now have to do to refine its bearings post-Hillary Clinton?
One, we have to reach out to young people. They voted for us 3 times in a row, and they'll vote for us the rest of our lives. We've got to get them into the party and believe in institutions, and we've got to get them into politics. 2, we have to reach out to working class people. I did not say white working class people. We have to reach out to all working class people, and there are plenty of working class people of color. So what we've got to do is focus on economics. Donald Trump is not going to do anything for the people who elected him. He's going to do some things, bad things to immigrants that they may like, but their lives are not going to get any better when he gives tax cuts to all his friends and none of them to the people who really need them. So I think people will be willing to listen to our argument in the future. We have to be everywhere in all 50 states, and we have to focus on legislatures and governors. There are more Republican governors today than there have ever been in the history of the United States, and we lost more seats in state legislatures. If the DNC doesn't focus on that, we're really going to have a hard time. Politics doesn't start at the top, it starts at the bottom, and there are too many people in Washington that have never figured that out.
You're going to run? Are you going to run to be the chair of the DNC?
I'm going to be the chair of the DNC, but we'll see what happens.
Howard Dean, a real pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.